Always be rigorously honest with yourself and others. Okay, step 1 of the 12 steps. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol or our addiction, gambling, our emotions, food, etc., that our lives had become unmanageable. What makes a king out of a slave? Courage, says the cowardly lion in The Wizard of Oz. That's where this journey starts, with the courage to be honest with ourselves. No more denial. As the recovery joke goes, denial is not a river in Egypt. So before we begin, at the thought of taking the first step, we have to be honest. This above all, to thine own self, be true. To answer this question, you only have to feel down into your heart and sense what your gut is saying. Are you happy? Do you feel a missing part or missing everything down there? A gaping, aching gap? If something is amiss, welcome to humanity. It's how we've been left. And it is what all the world's religious texts have been trying to tell us across the centuries and then offering a solution. That solution is there, but sometimes lost to many people in all the observance and dogma and profane power striving. Anyway, so many are like teenagers as to their parents when it comes to admitting that our life is not truly our life, that there is something else other than ourselves that has a fundamental sway over us. Certainly I rebelled over that, all of that, for many years. We do rebel, perhaps the majority of us, and of course we do. So we go it alone. Then at some point, and we've known it for a long while, we are in a grey world. This grey world means we are a lesser version of ourselves. And we know it, whatever the status or salary. We know it. We know there's something more, something much more to life. We feel unfulfilled. Deep down we know the answer to the question, is this it? If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. For man has closed himself up till he sees all things through narrow chinks of his cavern, wrote William Blake in The Marriage of Heaven and Hell. It is feasible to realise that perhaps we, humanity, actually knew more about all of this until sometime starting in perhaps the 1950s. In the 12 steps, the first step is an admission of powerlessness as the first step in liberation. Yet every instinct in a person cries out against this idea of personal powerlessness. Rebellion is rife. Yet this is surrendering to win. An admission of personal powerlessness turns out to be, as the AA book 12 Steps and 12 Traditions puts it, firm bedrock upon which happy and purposeful lives may be built. There has to be the emphatic realization that at present the person is powerless over their life. In mental health terms, that can be anything, whether it is depression, anxiety, OCD, trauma, alcoholism, or another addiction, or any other mental health condition. Anything that has power over us means we are powerless over it. If we had power over it, it wouldn't be a problem. Anyone who is at this point then, they have to admit their hopelessness, that they are on a road to nowhere, a fatal progression. But this should be a cause for optimism, hope at admitting hopelessness, as at least there is a knowing that to continue that way will lead only to a dead end. Some may still want to make yet another attempt to carry on down that road, but that is to be thinking you are alone in this world, to deny that we are all intricately linked, to reject that you were given the gift of life for a purpose. There has to be. No one creates something for it to be useless. Even those artists who have made something that may appear that way at first glance have done so with the thought of usefulness behind their creation. Take My Bed, a work by artist Tracy Emin. Created in 1998, consisting of an unmade bed with what looked like various random objects strewn next to it on a blue rug. Critics sneered and called it a farce, claiming anyone could exhibit an unmade bed. To these claims, the artist retorted, well, they didn't, did they? No one had ever done that before. She revealed the idea for My Bed was inspired by a depressive phase in her life when she had stayed in bed for 4 days without eating or drinking anything but alcohol. When she looked at the mess that had gathered in her bedroom, she realised what she had created. My Bed sold at auction for $2.5 million in 2014. So this sort of honesty in admitting hopelessness, that we have run out of ideas, that we need help, that we are bankrupt, takes great courage. It takes great courage as we live in a society that seems to increasingly tell us to go it alone. Our schools don't yet have lessons in going with your gut instincts, or humility, or spiritual growth. These are subjects that would help immensely in the navigation of life on life's terms. So it takes something. We are all broken to an extent, such is the nature of humanity, but so many of us hide behind masks of composure and or status. Psychiatrist M. Scott Peck wrote about this and called alcoholism the sacred disease because, open quotes, the great blessing of alcoholism is the nature of the disease. It puts people into a visible crisis, close quotes. It is obvious that alcoholics are messing up. Even so, the majority, as with all addicts, will not get the help they need. After suffering for many years, they will die as addicts. Most will be tragically alone. Consider the word crisis here, from Greek krisis, meaning act of separating, sudden change, decision, judgment, turning point. And that's from a variant stem of krinein, meaning to separate, choose, decide. So how do we choose to view the frequently sudden changes that will happen in life on life's terms? Does the alcoholic, for instance, who ends up in prison due to their drinking and corrupt way of survival, see this as the final end or the new beginning? Thank God some do choose the right way to go at this crisis, this turning point. And I've met several people who have turned their life around as a result of ending up in jail. This could be anyone's choice. In the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions book, it is written, under the lash of alcoholism, we are driven to AA, and there we discover the fatal nature of our situation. Then, and only then, do we become open-minded to conviction and as willing to listen as the dying can be. We stand ready to do anything. You can get to this point with or without being lashed by an addiction, if only you can be rigorously honest first and foremost with yourself, and then at some point soon with another trusted person who can help you. Ask yourself and honestly answer, is my life far from satisfactory? Is it too ordinary? Is it hell? In a hero's journey, the potential hero goes from their ordinary world into an extraordinary world. So the story's starting point is that ordinary world. It's usually far from satisfactory. It may look respectable, but there's usually an inner hell going on. The main character may be doing what is expected of him or her by family, friends, society, but they know, and we can see all too clearly, as with someone with, say, a drink or drug problem, that they are living in calamity and desolation, that there is much more to life than the life they are living. Life is just so drab, and they are so submissive in all that drabness. They know there's something else, something brighter. There simply has to be, because presently they feel dead. But they don't know where or what that something else is. At this stage, they may never have seen anywhere else. But deep inside them, they know every second. It's as if the spirit is crying out to them. Maybe that's exactly what it is. It's our soul inside connected to the spirit of life that tells us if we are happy or sad, if we are fulfilling our potential or not. Carl Jung depicted this perfectly in the Red Book. My soul, where are you? Do you hear me? I speak. I call you. Are you there? I have returned. I am here again. I have shaken the dust of all the lands from my feet, and I have come to you. I am with you. After long years of long wandering, I have come to you again. So step 1, the opening scene of this hero's journey, is realizing and admitting that you are a lost soul and that you are dying inside. It is saying, I am not who I am. In the beginning of Star Wars, protagonist Luke Skywalker is seen as a bored farm worker before he goes out into the exciting universe to fulfill his real purpose. Harry Potter lives in a grey suburban street with a family who constantly criticise him. Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz is put down as well by her family on the farm where she lives, and, as depicted in the beginning of the film, Life just has no colour. For people with addiction problems and many other mental health problems, it's similar. The world of a heroin addict or overeater or someone trapped in their house due to anxiety or depression may seem unusual to many, but to the person there, it becomes their ordinary world. In it, they are just existing, surviving day to day, put down and kept down by their addiction or their mental disease and spiritual sickness. Life is like a suicide by installments. They are digging a hole into darkness, and every day they are digging it deeper and deeper. In these scenarios, the ordinary world they are in cannot go on. They really know that. They've reached that point. It is unsustainable. It is unmanageable. The alcoholic at this point, as the book Alcoholics Anonymous says, will be unable to imagine life either with alcohol or without it. That is, most people know it, but it is also astonishing how many people don't realise that what they have put in place as their solution is their first problem to confront. The person drinking every evening or smoking weed every hour, certain so-called romantic relationships, the man or woman who works so much they barely see their children awake. All that drinking, all that weed, all that working, it's not working. It's doing you no good at all. Frequently, it is that the people in lives like this do know but keep it buried. They are using this thing, this addiction of some sort, to avoid having to go where they most likely need to go. The person took a drink, the drink took a person. Somewhere within them, they know that a metaphorical dragon is going to any day now pounce to slay them. They live in a perpetual state of impending doom or perpetual fear. There is internal division. The stuff may give a temporary form of relief, but even if it somehow looks like order on the outside, inside is chaos. And yet, as Jung put it, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. It is that the conscious will and unconscious knowing are so far apart that the gap is an abyss, which is what the word hell means. This abyss feels like it has no end, that it goes on forever, an infinite darkness, a pain that has no end, a chasm that can never be crossed. There seems to be no hope. At this point, many people tragically end their lives. It is not because they want to end their life, they want to end the pain of their consciousness. In other words, their thoughts are killing them. The magnifying mind is on the negative. It is focusing on lack. Whatever we focus on grows, be it good or bad. This is one reason why such as addiction and many other mental health problems are progressive. So too is recovery, by the way, but more on that to come. Particularly in addiction, people talk of the monkey on the back, and it just doesn't seem to be possible to shake it off. What is more, that monkey is doing press-ups 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's getting stronger, its grasp becoming ever tighter. It gets heavier and heavier, making it harder to take even one step forward. Its grip begins squeezing the chest, compressing the lungs, pressing on the heart, strangling. It's a panic attack every second, getting increasingly more choking. Negative thoughts create feelings. The feelings are toxic. The toxic feeling leads to more negative thoughts, toxic thinking. It is often a pattern of thinking and being that's been handed down from family of origin. It is all too often how they have been taught to focus, wired to think, and so to feel. The toxic shame, criticism, and trauma of childhood is pushing the self-destruction button. All of these fall under the major cause of what today are called mental health issues that are derived from spiritual sickness, that is, a failure of love. The pushing down of this inner sensing, the distraction and depressing by means of drink, drugs, work, sex, or whatever else, is no longer working. It cannot and never does forever. The toxicity spreads until it is everywhere within. At some point, nearly everyone suffering like this, if they can look back, will realise they have hidden themselves as a child to protect that vulnerable little soul. Their inner child is in a safe hiding place. A lot of recovery is about finding that inner child, reassuring and saving them, and then bringing them into the adult version of themselves. The 12 steps allow this. But if the soul's fire has been dampened down and concealed to protect it, the inner coldness will grow and grow until the icy shivering is unbearable. New fires are perhaps lit, and sometimes they burn high and far, but they are not the real fire of that person. That warm, blazing real light is still somewhere, flickering in a cold darkness. It is not that people get depression, it is that they are depressing something terribly dark and heavy. In some way, they were made to feel unlovable. But we are human, and we need to be loved. So at some point the drugs do not work anymore, they only make it worse. The fire needs to be found and rekindled to be fully alight again, to be burning brightly, glowing and sharing its warmth and light. Sometimes it's been hidden so well and for so long to protect it, the suffering person needs to really search deep down to find it, into the suffering, deep into the wound, into the heart of the darkness. If this is you, then you need to ask, why the addiction? Why the anxiety? Why the depression? What's the trauma, the wound, the toxic shame, and where was, and perhaps still is, the failure of love that encompasses all of these? I strongly recommend help from someone who's been there and knows what they are talking about to answer these questions. Someone who has come out the other side. You may know where honest to goodness help is. You may have been to see the understanding and knowledgeable counsellor or to the 12-step meeting. Now you meet a certain someone or read something or see a sign. The pain of mental health disease is to attract your attention to all of this. For all this disturbance is signposting the way to the solution for you. If not dealt with, run directly into, the pain will only ever get worse because it will increase its effort to attract your attention. Many reach this point. They reach this point and the lucky ones realise it. In the hero's journey, the first stage is known as the call to adventure. This is when the potential hero is presented with a challenge. The word adventure is from Latin adventurus, meaning about to happen. When you can admit that there's something really wrong with how you're living, in how your life is going, when you can make that brave admission that it is unmanageable, then you are already inviting help in. So something's about to happen. If you follow the steps and know the hero's journey stages, it's always going to be something supreme that will transform your life.